Episode number 77 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. So I hope you guys are all doing well with the quarantine. Today I wanted to do a little talk myself about something that I think is really cool, kind of mystical, and I tend to be drawn to the intuitive side, so I'm kind of a closet intuitive. I do over time find that when you're working with people over and over again, even my husband mentioned it from working in the ER, you become intuitive. You start to have a feeling that's more than just logic, and you get a sense for things. And one of the things that I began getting a sense of and started to pay attention to with working with women on fertility conditions is that there is, and it's also my Ayurvedic background, is really comes down to the second chakra. So the second chakra, also called the sacral chakra, sits right above the first chakra, which is the root chakra. And I'm going to get to why that is so important in a minute. Now, the second chakra is the area in the body, which interestingly enough, so in Chinese medicine, we look at acupressure points, really meridians, and what the points do for the body, what therapeutic effects they have, what purpose they have, and of course the importance of all the meridians to move and carry chi correctly so that the points are able to get nourished. And the area that is in the second chakra, that's Ayurvedic medicine, which is an ancient Indian medicine. They speak about chakras. And they talk about energy vortexes basically in the body. So I'm not sure if you've ever heard about vortexes. There's vortexes considered to be in the world. One of them is Sedona in Arizona. I've been there. It's amazing the energy that you can get from being there. So as I've mentioned in the past in other episodes, we're like a hologram. And our body reflects as if it's its own walking universe. So it has its own climate, it has its own energy patterns, it has its own world basically. And we reflect what is on the world. So the world has these energy vortex and we do as well. Earth does. So our energy vortexes, the strongest ones are in the chakras, and they're actually thought to be in the spine, and it feeds to the front. So the second chakra houses the organs, the reproductive organs. So for women, it's the ovaries and the uterus, and for men, it's actually the testicles. And so the reproductive energy sits in the second chakra. What's interesting about the second chakra is that it is also energetically, each chakra, just like in Chinese medicine, each organ has almost like a personality and a spirit. So each chakra has a mental tendency, or at least it's able to access a mental energy. So the second chakra is all about creativity. It's the connecting to creativity. And the first chakra is all about security. It's the root chakra. It's feeling rooted and secure. And a lot of times people can think back of a time where they felt out of balance and something happened and it caused them a lot of fear. One of the first things that you can feel when you're in that situation is a feeling of unrootedness. And you can feel almost like you're not being grounded and a part of something. You don't have that stability. That's like, it's a very easy thing to compare it to, where you feel unstable. And that typically puts you in fear mode. immediately, or the fear mode creates this instability, that's when the first root chakra gets imbalanced. And the second chakra, being the reproductive area and also connected to creativity, what's interesting to me about that is I have a feeling and a belief that all people are meant to create. And as a matter of fact, whether you call yourself a creative or not, you're always creating. The question is, are you creating consciously or are you creating unconsciously? And that's the big question. I believe we always create. We're born to create. We will always create. And sometimes we create beautiful things. Sometimes we create ideas. We come up with solutions. Our minds are creative with coming up with words. We speak well. Everybody has their own talent of creativity, or they're tuned into a specific type of creativity. And then sometimes, unfortunately, we can create drama if we don't channel our creativity in a productive way. So the second chakra, having that energy of creativity, can really get affected if it does not feel safe. And it sits right on top of the root chakra. And the root chakra is all about stability. Now think back. If it may have happened to you, it may have not. Or imagine, if it hasn't happened to you, a child who's creating something. And you'll never find a child that says, I'm not creative. They don't even know what creative is. They just are. They'll find a pencil or colors or dance to music or sing or play or even play with their food. They'll find a way to create and play. And that's really what that energy is all about. And think of a child that does this. And imagine, going to kindergarten or first grade where they start coloring outside of the lines. And an adult comes in and says, that's not right. You have to color it within the lines. And immediately, depending on the personality of the child and how that impacts them, which most of the time it really does, they may internalize that as a feeling that I'm not doing the right thing. And what happens when a child feels that way? They feel unsafe because children are so dependent on adults. They feel unsafe. And immediately there's a tendency to feel unsafe with creating. And if you don't feel safe creating or expressing yourself, you're not going to express yourself. And in order to really truly express yourself, you have to feel safe. It comes together hand in hand. So it's so important to at least acknowledge that there is this sense, if anybody has a creative block, it's usually because they're afraid of getting judged or they're afraid of judging their own work. And so that's something to ponder and think about. Now, everything is connected and we are all metaphors. And you can find these metaphors in everything. Chinese medicine speaks so strongly to that in what it calls the yin and the yang, the opposite, the two opposite. We can see it in everything. We can see it in night and day, the sun and the moon. It shows itself in everything. And the same can be compared to the energy of conception. Does it come from the person, or is it something that sort of downloads from an openness and an open space of receptivity? We don't know, and I can get very philosophical with that, but it is something to ponder. And the reason that I'm saying this is that this is conception of the mind. Conception of the mind is something that really happens. We conceive in our minds ideas and thoughts, and this is where we are creative. And in order to be in that state of creativity, just like in order to sleep or dream, we need to feel safe. We won't be able to allow ourselves this expansiveness without feeling safe. So the two go hand in hand, so interconnected, and it's so important. So when it comes to conception, that's the energy of conception. The energy, the mental energy, even the spiritual energy. So now, spiritually, Chinese medicine, they believe that some of the ways that they figured out the meridians is by going through deep meditation. and connecting to this vast cosmic consciousness. And there was something about the ancients that they knew a lot more than we do. And we can see that because even scientists now can't figure out how some of them built pyramids. Some of these things that we find in archaeology are a mystery. Nobody really knows exactly how they knew. And it was thought that they even understood how to read the sky. And yeah, we have astrologers, but I feel like somewhere as a collective consciousness, we lost and forgot. We almost have an amnesia. And my belief is the reason we have this amnesia is because we rely too much on science. We need too much proof of every single thing that happens. And if we need proof of everything that happens, that stops us from dreaming. It stops us from believing. It stops us from getting into this space where we can allow something that hasn't yet been proven to be born, basically. And so my theory is that connecting to this space of creativity, connecting and allowing yourself to feel safe, to allow yourself to create and to get into a space of playing is very important for your fertility health. This is one of the first questions I ask patients when they come in, is if they have a creative outlet. Now, this does not mean that you have to be born an artist or somebody who has incredible skill drawing. It has nothing to do with it. Expressing yourself creatively is something we do all the time. And I will suggest to maybe, or invite you to think about throughout the day, just pay attention to things that you create. And some of them might be you're creating in your mind a story because somebody said something to you. It could be positive, negative, whatever it is, or even in a positive way. Oh, that person is so sweet. They always do. How do we create and what stories do we allow ourselves to go into or think about? That is a form of creation that we're constantly doing it. I do it. Everybody does it. It's just our way to find meaning in life. And our minds will always try to find some kind of meaning or to make sense of things. And that is what makes us feel safe. So think about it and pay attention to what you do throughout the day, or if there's something that in a way that you create. Do you create ideas to come up with solutions for your work? Is there something that your mind kind of creates that you haven't had before? Think about it. Now, creativity doesn't have to be one specific way. Creativity could be writing in a journal, writing poetry, just writing in general. It could be singing. It could be spoken word. It could be even moving your body, dancing. It could be literally anything. It could be drawing. It could be just coloring something that somebody else drew, putting pieces together, just doodling. Any kind of way where you allow your mind to get into a space where it's okay not to be logical. And it's allowing yourself this place of vastness and space and receptivity. And I promise you that if you give it the space, it'll start to bring in more ideas and it'll start to flow more easily. I truly believe that if you give a space and a platform for these creations or the creative energy to flow through you, I feel like it's like this grand spirit that wants to use you as a channel, and in a good way. The reason I know this is because I'm an artist. Since birth, I've always painted. I actually was a professional artist. That's why I say I'm an artist, because I expanded the skill. If I wouldn't have done that, I probably wouldn't have the same skill as I have today, but it was just a matter of expanding that skill and doing it over and over and over again, which is why I believe that anybody can become an artist. For me, I've realized that it's really allowing myself to be an open channel to allow the inspiration to come through. And the more I give a platform to whatever inspiration needs to come through, the more it comes through. So when I went to Dr. Lee years ago, in my early 20s, I found that, and I was still creating at the time, I was in a job that was not allowing me to create the way I'd like to, even though I was working as an architect. And I had gynecological problems. I went to Dr. Lee. He opened me up. I'm going to say he opened up my second chakra, regulated my period completely. And I also began painting women. I connected with this feminine energy and I began painting in a different way. I was a little bit more open and vast, and I wasn't as afraid to create. It's an interesting thing that I started noticing. So that was one of the first times that I really realized, wow, there's got to be something to this, and there's got to be this connection to that second chakra. So I'm going to, of course, give you some tips. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you some tips here. One of the books that I love is called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I would love to have her on my show. I really wanted to have her on my show, but she's very busy. So maybe one day that dream or wish can be fulfilled. I'll manifest it. But anyhow, she wrote a book that talked about pretty much what I'm saying here. And it was a brilliant, amazing book. And she talks about how everybody has this, or was born a creator. We all have that ability to create. And she gives a couple of different things that you can do, and I just love it. So I'm going to share it. There's a couple of different things, but one of them is she talks about the morning pages. That basically means that you write 3 pages in the morning, and just, it could be about anything. And it's literally just to clear your mind. It's to clear the channel. It basically gives a little spring cleaning to your mental patterns and allows for the flow to start. And what happens is over time, you're going to start getting used to expressing yourself. You're going to give yourself a little bit of a time to have a voice. Now, not only is it important for any kind of creativity, but it's really important for women going through challenges right now and feeling really confused. It's going to give more clarity and at least somewhere where you can privately express yourself. And if you feel uncomfortable, of course, that somebody's going to read it, you could take it and rip it up and throw it in the garbage right after you're done. Whatever you need in order to feel safe expressing yourself, because really the key here is safety, feeling safe to express yourself or having a place to do that. And I think it's especially important if you're going through challenges, if you're around family members or friends that don't understand and they're not being supportive, if you feel like you can't connect with your partner. There's so many different things that can be going on right now. Or if you're just totally confused and you don't know what road to take, it's really helpful for that as well. And it's going to give a lot more clarity. Plus, it just clears that channel. So it clears the air. So that is a really, really great way to do it. Another thing that she mentions is also having a date with yourself. So going somewhere that inspires you. It could be walking on the street in an area that's all nature, just something, going somewhere that physically just feels good, out in nature, just walking by yourself. And it could be literally 20 minutes, or it can be once a week. You just kind of make a date for yourself by yourself so that you can kind of sit with your thoughts and allow your energy and your soul to be inspired. Because inspiration is so important. It's so vital. And then another thing that you can do is, and I speak about this in one of my early episodes, is visualization. Visualization is extremely important, and the energy of the mind is so important. Visualizations, there have been studies to show that athletes who imagine themselves practicing did as well as athletes who actually practiced, compared to ones that were the control group and did not do anything. So visualization in your mind makes your mind believe you're actually doing whatever it is that you're doing. So it's extremely, extremely important. And I don't think that we've really scratched the surface on how valuable visualization is. It's extremely valuable. It's something that we can really harness and utilize to create in our life. So this visualization, it's part of our creativity. And so you can actually start to visualize a yellow energy or just an energy in general in your sacral chakra. And you start to visualize that energy nourishing, loving, and spending time really loving your uterus, because that's literally going to be the home of your child. If this is the path that you're taking and you're trying to get pregnant, that energy, Amy Rapp talks about that. She talks about how that is your child's palace, and it's important to spend time loving that energy, that area of your body, just sending it love. And subconsciously, we can feel ashamed of it. I mean, there's so many different beliefs that we may not even realize are there. So it's important every day to use that time to visualize energy flow towards that area. And on a physical level, something that I love is Kundalini Yoga. And Kundalini Yoga works on the energy of the whole spine, really. But what you could do is hula hoops. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but hula hoops, or moving your body in a way that's like belly dancing, kind of moving in a round circle. Or you think about like the hula dances. I think that's what it's called in Hawaii, where they're basically thrusting and moving around their hips and moving the hips back and forth and up and down, just basically almost like you can even sit down and look like you are a snake moving around with your hips and your glutes like stuck on the floor and the rest of the body going round in circles, so clockwise and counterclockwise. And do that a lot of times just to release that whole area, that pelvis area. We tend to also hold a lot of memory in that area. So that can really help with moving that second chakra energy and really visualizing it, loving it, sending it love, and then just doodling, coloring. You can find any kind of creativity, dancing, listening to music, singing, whatever it is that feels like it uplifts you. And I know that if you're going through the fertility journey, you need that. You need something, just a little something of your own. And it can be in your own privacy, something that feeds your soul. Because it's so important to fill your own cup. And it is so important not to forget self-care at this time. You deserve it more than anything right now, and you need it more than anything right now. So this is something that will nurture that second chakra and will give you at least some way to express yourself in a productive way, in a way that lets your soul free so that you don't feel confined. And I can almost guarantee that your intuition will grow from this, because part of intuition is very much connected to the creativity. Part of intuition is allowing yourself to be a channel and allowing your antenna to connect with that vast intelligence. And I believe that intuition is super important for anybody going through the fertility journey, because you're in a situation where people are talking to you left and right all over the place. You're getting so many different opinions, and you're getting a lot of fear built into you and a lot of very specific diagnosis, prognosis, which many times are not exactly accurate. Many times. So it's important to get back to yourself and your grounding and believe in yourself and believe in your journey and get back to that hope that you know is there. You feel it. You're on this journey for a reason. This is something that called you. You're on it for a reason. It's very easy to doubt, I know. And this is why I think that doing these practices is going to get you stronger. It's going to get you to know more what feels right to you. And it's going to guide you to making those right decisions. Because I know it's 1,000,001 decisions that you have to make. And it's extremely, extremely unsettling. So this is why using these types of tools can be so beneficial at a time like this. I hope this helped. And I also want to mention that I have hypnosis audios that I just added to my website. You can find them on the fertility resources of www.thewholesomelotus.com, and I have them on sale for a short time. So go ahead and check them out. And if you have any questions for me, and I love hearing from you guys, so please do not hesitate to reach out. Go ahead and email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I'll have all that information in the episode notes, as well as a link to the book I mentioned, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And if you do find any kind of epiphanies or experience some kind of interesting, creations or guided to doing something unique that you've never done before and it kind of took you by surprise, go ahead and let me know and email me. I would love to hear your experience. And if you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it with a friend. And until next time, have a beautiful day. So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.